One of the most common questions I get from guys is, Ben, how do you manage to date people sober? A couple of concerns people have is actually getting dates. If you're someone who is not very successful on Tinder or Hinge or any other dating app, then you're probably thinking, how the hell can you actually go and secure a date with a girl if you're not drinking and you're not in a pub or club environment? I have successfully gone on 3 dates in 3 weeks by approaching girls, talking to them sober in a normal setting. I'm also going to share with you why the fear of sober sex is actually keeping you from being able to stop drinking and is actually stopping you reaching your full potential. So make sure you stick around to the end. And some of the things I'm actually going to say in this video are quite personal, and not a lot of guys would actually make a video and be this honest, because it goes against the whole dating dynamic of like limiting self-beliefs and feeling insecure and not good enough. So if you're watching this video, great, might delete it later, but let's get into it. Right, so let's get into it. If you've wondered why I have moved to inside, it's because, I don't know if you heard, I've actually got a cockerel who lives next door and he literally doesn't shut up. And even though I'm trying to be as zen as I can and focus, when he's cock-a-doodle-doodling, it's quite hard to focus. So we're going to start with the first step of the whole dating dynamic. And the first step is actually getting the date, getting the leads in, going up and approaching and talking to girls. For me, being in a relationship for most of my sober life, so I've been sober for 4.5 years, for those of you who don't know. Had a girlfriend for most of that. I've only spent probably a 1.5 years of actually being sober single. So this is the first time really moving to Bali now that I've actually had a chance to be able to like go out and approach girls, not in an alcohol venue setting, just in a normal daytime setting, and being able to get their numbers and go on a date with them successfully. Now, I don't do that well on Tinder or Hinge. I don't really put much effort into my profile. If you're someone who's on dating apps and you're not getting the matches you want, or you're not getting any matches, then you basically need to listen to what I'm going to say in this video, because you need to go out there and actually get these numbers and talk to girls. So my biggest concern was most of the people I had met and got into relationships with or gone on dates with are people that I'd met when I'd gone out drinking. So giving up alcohol is probably one of the biggest questions that people ask me. They say, if I quit drinking, how am I going to be able to date? You need to be able to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and you need to put yourself in the right social settings where you can actually be able to engage with women, have a conversation with them, preferably in a place which is not a pub or a club, because it's quite hard with all the loud music, and if they're drunk and you're sober, you're just going to be on like a sort of different wavelength. So I'm going to tell you how I've got my last 3 dates. So magically, it's come from being in the gym, and this gym is a very good gym. You pay quite a lot of money to go there. Not too much, but it's more expensive than a normal gym. But what this gym offers is a swimming pool area, sauna, ice bath, and you have like sun loungers. And then you also have like classes like yoga. So this is a great place where you're going to be able to like hang around and chill out, especially the sauna, where this is where the first step comes in. You have to have conversation openers. for me, when I was younger, I was quite a handsome guy, and a lot of the women that I actually dated or went home with, it was because they chose me. Like, they would say something to me or they would stare at me. As you get a little bit older, I think your looks start to fade a little bit, and people around you, the women around you, they get older as well, who are going to be necessarily more attracted to you. And you're probably going to find that they're not just going to come up and talk to you. When you're like, you probably experience it yourself, when you're like 18 to like 22, no one really cares, do they? Like, girls will just say stuff to you, they'll just come up to you, they'll tell their friend that they like you, and when you go over and speak to them. But when we get to the age of like 30 and 40, like, that sort of like playful childishness kind of goes away. So you've got to throw out conversation openers. There's just no two ways about it. And you have to do it sober. You have to just say something. For instance, I was in the sauna yesterday and I got a great story, and this is not a brag. It actually made me feel a little bit worse after the date, but I'll tell you why towards the end of the story. So I was talking to this girl. She was sitting opposite me. As soon as she came into the gym, I looked at her, I thought, wow, she's amazing. I seen her kind of like glance at me. We're in the sauna, she's sitting opposite me, and I'm just sitting here. Some guy like slams the door pretty hard, and she like laughs and says, "Huh, aggressive." And I like dropped in and said something stupid like, "Yeah, it was aggressive." It was a conversation opener, and then like we're engaged, we're talking, and then I asked like, "Where you from?" She tells me where she's from. There's another guy in the corner up the top. I bring him into the conversation, so we're like in a three-way sort of conversation. So I'm basically like demonstrating that I've got social skills whilst having a little bit of playful banter with her. And then she leaves the sauna, and I look at the guy and I say, before I go, I'm going to get a number. So I've set the intention. I've told someone I'm going to get a number. I'm going to get a number. I'm sitting on my sun lounger. She walks past. I just say, "Excuse me, can I have your number? I want to take you on a date." Now, this only worked because I had conversation with her before, and she could see that I wasn't a psychopath. She could see that I could communicate with someone else. I could have playful banter with her and her friend. So she knows I'm not a threat. You just need to say anything. Don't overcomplicate what you're going to say. If you see a girl, just say anything. Just comment on the weather, comment on the surroundings. You have to do this. Otherwise, you're just going to end up being in your 40s and your 50s. Life's going to pass you by. You're going to be angry because you're not getting dates. You're going to keep drinking because you think that's the only way you're going to be able to go out and meet people. And by the way, if you need alcohol to go out and meet people and take people home, then that's probably not a good indicator that they're going to be a good person for you if you're sober curious or you're just newly sober. So you want to be able to put yourself in an environment where you're around like-minded people, like a yoga class or a gym. If you're going to put yourself in a pub or a club, you're just going to attract that. If you want to get rid of drinking, then that's not a good way. So now here's the next step. So you've gone out, you've seen a girl, hopefully you've said something to her and you've asked for a number. Now you've got her number and you're arranging to go on a date with her. Now, this is one of the biggest things that people struggle with. The first hardest bit is getting the date, and then the second hardest bit is actually going on the date without drinking. All through my dating career when I was drinking, every date I used to say, "Should we go for a drink?" It would always be, "Let's go for a drink." And it's great because you're both getting drunk, you're both getting loose, you don't really care what you say. You could say some bad things and do some bad things and make some bad decisions. But now you're in this position where you stop drinking and you haven't been on a date for a while. You're a little bit unconfident and you're thinking, oh God, so if I go on a dinner date with this girl, I'm going to be sat in like a interview-like position with no alcohol, drinking water, eating food, face-to-face for an hour, you're probably thinking to yourself, this is going to be so difficult and it's going to be so awkward. Now, I have a solution for you. If you're not confident sober, then I would strongly recommend for your first date, you suggest something like going for an ice cream and going for a walk. Now, the reason this works well is because you'd be shoulder to shoulder, and you, when you're walking through a park, a beach, or a city centre, when the environment around you is constantly changing, you're going to have endless things to talk about. When you're sat in the restaurant and you're probably a bit socially awkward, it's going to be hard for you to be able to keep the conversation going. And the last thing you want to do is have awkward silence and make her feel awkward. And I've actually gone past this point myself. Yesterday, I went for a dinner date, a restaurant date, and we were talking and I just stopped talking and I didn't have anything to say. And I was just looking at her and she was looking at me, and I didn't feel awkward, but she said she felt awkward. She's like, awkward silence. And I've got to the point now where I've been on so many dates sober, I don't actually care. So I was just happy just to not speak. I didn't have anything to say. But for you, always keep the date moving, always comment on the environment around you. Like, look at that dog over there, the weather's beautiful. If she says something to you, it's always yeah and. So if she says to you something like, I love this ice cream, say yeah and me. And you know what? I love having an ice cream when we're walking through and it's sunny and we can watch people on dates and we're wondering whether it's their first date or they're in a relationship. We can people watch. It just makes eating the ice cream so much more enjoyable. So always keep the date moving, and that way you will never have awkward silences, and you're basically stimulating your minds because everything around you is constantly changing. And this is the bit you've been sticking around for. Why sober sex and the fear of it is keeping you drinking and stopping you from reaching your potential. Story time. Now, my friend, newly sober for 1 year, I was speaking to him on Christmas Day. He was on a boat party and he said something to me around the lines of, he met this girl on a boat party and they were talking, it was going really well. She was drinking, he was not. This was the first time that he'd ever been tempted to drink. And the reason why is she wanted to escalate this, whatever you want to call it, and basically go home. And he said to me it was the first time in a year he's actually been tempted to drink, because the thought of actually going home with her and having sober sex just ruined his mind. He just thought, how is this even possible? Like, every time I've gone on a date with a girl and had sex with a girl for the first time, I've always drunk. Now, unfortunately, there's no way of getting around this mindset. Like, you just basically just have to just do it. You just have to do it. If you're going to be this guy who always needs a drink to have sex or drink to go on a first date, then you're watching this video because you follow my channel or you stumbled across it because you want to stop drinking. Drinking's not serving you anymore. Maybe it's destroying your life, or maybe it's just holding you back from your full potential. But if you're going to be fearful of sober dates and sober sex, then the alternative is that you keep on drinking and you just destroy your life that way. Trust me, usually when you have sex with someone for the first time, me and my friend were talking about this the other day, and he said to me, it's always shit. It's always shit the first time. It's always awkward. You're always like worrying or self-conscious or whatever. It's always going to be like that. And it gets better after that. So you just need to remember, like, drinking's just not going to make it better. You're probably going to make worse decisions if you do drink. You may have unprotected sex and get her pregnant and then realize that she's not for you anyway. So just don't be fearful of it. Just embrace it. Like, you're going to come through all these new challenges when you're sober. You have to talk to people sober. You have to have sex with people sober. Like, socializing sober is a skill. After going on a date with this girl yesterday, absolutely beautiful. Like, literally a dream girl for me. Like, I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. Can you hear that out there? Cleaners are out there. Very annoying. We just exchanged numbers, no IG accounts. Go on a date, start talking to her. Like, she asked me what I do. I ask her what she does. Long story short, it turns out that she's famous and she's got a real successful career. She's got over 2 million followers and she's probably rich, and I'm not rich. I didn't kind of know this until I left the date, and then I Googled her and I found her. The curiosity got me. I was like, she's telling me she's like successful, but she's, you know, doing it in a very modest way. And then I found out who she was, and then it made me feel worse. Like, I thought, like, I've got this girl's number. I really wanted her number, and I wanted to take her on a date because she's beautiful. And she seen me and she was interested in me and she wanted to go on the date, which you'd think, great, this is amazing. Like, you know, I've won. But I actually walked away from that date feeling like maybe I'm not good enough. Yeah, it made me feel quite bad. I thought, you know, I'm so far away from her and her success. Like, I'm not good enough and she would never be interested in me. And I do believe this comes from drinking and doing drugs for all them years, basically just destroying your self-confidence, destroying your self-belief, and just waking up with regret, guilt and shame from drinking. You know the feeling when you wake up the next day and you regret the night before you've done something stupid, or you've spent all your money, or you've damaged a relationship, you've lost a job. Like, that vicious cycle just puts you in such a low frequency vibration. So when you do get sober, and I hope you are in the initial stages, by the way, I've actually got a 7-day course in the description. It's 22 video modules long. Check it out. But when you do get sober, initially you're going to have a bit of a rough ride, and it's not going to be easy. But what sobriety does, it gives you all the tools to be able to fix all the shit in your life and then be able to sculpt the life that you want. So a bit of a long one on dating today, but I thought this would be valuable for you. I've just basically riffed it raw, so I hope you find some value. And if you do, subscribe and comment and let me know what you want to hear in the next video.